Highguard launched as a tactical evolution hero shooter, and the player base fell off a cliff almost immediately. It matters because it's another live service lesson. The industry refuses to learn. If the loop is dead, the game is dead. Alright, now let's talk about how this thing managed to ship, feeling like a security shift with cosmetics stapled on. Highguard is doing that thing where a game doesn't just stumble, it faceplants, slides across the pavement, and then gets up and insists it meant to do a stylish combat roll, and the funniest part is the studio keeps acting like we're the weird ones for noticing the blood on the concrete. By the way, this is an actual human narrating, so if you think I'm a bot, kindly consult your local microwave for further instructions. So let's talk about it, not with the corporate PR voice, not with the everybody's valid press release tone, just us, like you and me sitting on a couch, passing the controller back and forth, watching this thing burn, while the community managers try to convince the chat that the fire is actually warm ambience. Highguard was pitched as the tactical evolution of the hero shooter. You know the sales pitch, precision, team play, high skill ceiling, built by veterans, the sort of buzzword soup that gets investors drooling, and gets players thinking they're about to main a character who feels like a highlight reel. What we got instead feels like a security guard simulator, stapled to a cosmetic shop, a game where the most exciting moment is when the menu loads without stuttering. And yes, before the comments fill up, I know it's free to play, that's the magic spell people chant, like it makes criticism illegal. It's free, bro, cool, so is the flu, so is a spam call. Free doesn't mean good, free just means they found a different way to charge you, and we're going to get to that. Alright, let's break down why this whole thing is collapsing, why the discourse around it is even worse, and why the industry keeps repeating the same mistakes, like it's trapped in a cursed loop. First up, the X-greatness bait and switch. You've seen this, a new studio pops up, and the first thing they do is slap from the people who worked on the box, like it's a magical pedigree certificate, Titanfall Apex. Insert your favorite shooter that actually feels good to move in. They put those names in a font big enough to be seen from orbit, and they expect you to hand over trust, like you're paying tribute. Then the reviews come in, the Steam page gets that nasty little warning label, players start posting clips of the jank, and suddenly the credits get slippery, the marketing language gets vague. Well, not everyone was on the movement team. Well, those folks were consultants. Well, they touched the project early. It's the same energy as a kid loudly bragging about a test score, then blaming the teacher when it goes bad. If the game is a hit, they're the architects. If it's a flop, they were just in the building. You don't get to wear the cape, only when the crowd is cheering. And here's the bigger issue, that bait and switch is a trust nuke. Players don't just dislike the product, they feel played, and in a live service space, once trust is gone, your whole will fix it in a patch strategy turns into a joke. People don't come back for apologies, they come back for results, and Highguard is handing out excuses, like free samples. Now let's talk about the core gameplay, because I swear calling this a shooter is like calling a slow elevator ride an extreme sport. Highguard spends a bizarre amount of your match asking you to do chores, reinforce this, guard that, watch this doorway, check a UI panel, place a barrier, wait for a ping, replace the barrier because the map geometry thinks you're committing a crime. And I get it, tactical games can be great, I love tension, I love that moment where a plan comes together, where the other team panics because you predicted their push. That's not what this is busywork masquerading as strategy. It's like the designers heard players like preparation, and then forgot the part where preparation leads to action. Highguard feels like a pre-match warm-up that never ends. You're always getting ready, always setting up, always bracing for the fun that never arrives. This is what happens when tactical depth becomes a shield for nothing is happening. You can't just slow the pace and call it mature. You need payoffs, you need conflict, you need that clean feedback loop where decisions matter, and the game respects your effort. Instead, you get long stretches where you're staring at the same angle, like you're watching paint dry, except the paint has a battle pass. Which brings us to the weird connection everyone's whispering about, the Concord influence. Now, I'm going to be careful, because the internet loves turning this into a witch hunt, but the vibe is undeniable. You look at Highguard's UI, the character silhouettes the sterile design language, and it screams committee. It screams we sanded off every edge until nothing could offend anyone, including the player's sense of taste. It's that non-offensive space person aesthetic, the kind of character design that feels like it came out of a corporate workshop, where everyone was terrified of being called problematic. So they built heroes with the personality of a toothbrush. And it's not just visuals, it's the whole philosophy. It's like the designers are allergic to letting players actually do cool stuff. Every mechanic is gated, every tool is limited, every moment of aggression is punished, not by smarter opponents, but by the game itself. You push, you get slowed, you chase, you get locked out, you try to make a play, and the system slaps your wrist like you're a toddler reaching for a cookie. This is where the culture war angle sneaks in, and I know some of you roll your eyes when people bring it up, but hear me out. There's a pattern in modern games where developers seem more interested in controlling how players behave than in giving players toys and letting chaos happen. It's designed by moral panic. It's we can't let the community be too spicy, so they build systems that feel like a padded room. And then they act shocked when players say the game feels sterile. Like, yeah, of course it does. You built it like a corporate training module. Now the real kicker, the progression loop, or more accurately, the absence of one. A live service game lives and dies on the loop. You need that one more match itch. You need a reason to experiment, a reason to learn, a reason to stick around even when you lose. Highguard gives you cosmetics, skins, sprays, charms, the usual digital trinkets, and I'm not even anti-cosmetic. If the game is fun, I'll happily earn goofy outfits and dumb emotes. That's fine. But cosmetics can't be the whole meal. Their garnish. Highguard is serving garnish on an empty plate and acting like you should be grateful, because the parsley is high quality. There's no meaningful build crafting, no satisfying unlock path that changes how you play, no reward structure that makes you feel like you're growing. It's just play more, buy more, look different, and if the underlying matches aren't thrilling, looking different while you're bored is not a selling point. This is where the monetization starts to feel like a hostage note. Keep playing and maybe you'll get something shiny. Meanwhile, the match itself feels like a chore list. And then we arrive at the part that makes me want to tilt my head, like a confused dog, the critic discourse. You've got professional reviewers bending themselves into pretzels to defend this game. You've got the same circle of industry folks doing the support ambitious projects routine, like they're passing around a donation jar. No, absolutely not. Buying a mediocre game is not activism, it's not charity, it's not a moral duty. You are not obligated to clap because a studio tried something. Consumers are allowed to say, this is boring, and move on. But the modern games media ecosystem has turned criticism into heresy. If you don't like the game, you're entitled. If you refund, you're toxic. If you ask for basic features, you're harassing devs. It's the softest, most manipulative framing imaginable, and it's especially gross when it's used to shield a product from accountability. Because here's the truth. If you respect players, you build a game that respects their attention. If you don't, you get a player base that disappears. And Highguard's player base, it fell off a cliff, like cartoon cliff, little dust cloud, tiny boing sound, gone. You jump into lobbies and it feels like a mall after every store has closed. You recognize the same names. You start seeing suspiciously similar movement patterns. You start wondering if half the roster is bots, wearing human masks. The studio will call it natural settling. They'll say, we're focusing on core fans. They'll pretend it's fine. It's not fine. A hero shooter needs bodies. It needs variety. It needs constant matchmaking energy. When the pool dries up, the experience gets worse, which drives more people out, which makes it worse again. That's not a dip, that's a death spiral. Now, let's talk about toxic positivity, because this is the silent killer that everyone ignores until the ship is already underwater. You can feel it in the design. Highguard reeks of a studio culture where nobody was allowed to say this sucks, where every meeting ended with love the vibe, and let's iterate and we'll polish after launch, and nobody was brave enough to say, guys, this is not fun. And I know, some of you have worked in corporate environments. You've seen it. The person who raises concerns becomes negative. The person who pushes back is not aligned. The person who says the emperor has no clothes gets moved to a different project. That culture can build pretty slides. It can build glossy trailers. It can build a marketing campaign that looks expensive. It cannot build a game loop that holds attention. Players are the ultimate QA team. Not because they're nicer or smarter, but because they're ruthless. They don't care about your internal politics. They don't care about your Slack emojis. They care about whether the match feels good. And when it doesn't, they leave, quietly, instantly, no press release required. Which is why the participation trophy argument makes me laugh. You've got people on social media crying that we should root for games to succeed, like we're watching a little league team, like we should clap because they tried hard. Buddy, this is the storefront, this is a market. There are hundreds of games competing for your attention. If you launch something that feels like homework, you don't get a medal, you get ignored. And the root for it crowd always has the same vibe. They're not actually playing the game. They're defending the idea of the game. They're defending the brand. They're defending the studio's identity. It's fandom for a corporation, and it's weird. Now, the Cliff B angle, this is where the irony hits maximum saturation. You've got industry legends chiming in, defending Highguard's vision, talking about bold choices, and then you find out they haven't even booted it up. They're cheering from the sidelines because it's their tribe, not because the product deserves it. And look, I'm not saying creators and devs can't support each other. community is fine, but if your support is louder than your experience, it's empty. It's like reviewing a movie based on the poster. It's like praising a restaurant because you like the chef's tweets. At some point, you have to eat the food. And the food in Highguard tastes like unseasoned oatmeal. Now, let's zoom out to the bigger industry politics, because this isn't just one game. Highguard is a symptom. Studios keep chasing the same trend because the money people want recurring revenue. They want predictable engagement charts. They want a store that prints cash while the game runs itself. So they take a genre that thrives on passion and mastery, and they smother it with metrics. They design around retention. They design around monetization. They design around avoiding controversy. They design around appeasing everyone. And they forget to design around fun. Then, when the game flops, they blame the players. They blame review bombing. They blame bad faith. They blame toxic communities. They blame content creators. They blame literally anything except the possibility that the product is mid. This is why people get cynical. This is why the discourse gets nasty. Because players can feel the manipulation. You can feel when a studio is lecturing you. You can feel when a game is built as a platform first, and an experience afterthought. Saddest part is that there are flashes of potential. The weapon audio is decent. The maps have moments where lines of sight create interesting puzzles. Some abilities could be cool if they weren't chained to restrictions. But potential is not a product. Potential is what you talk about in a post-mortem, right before the layoffs. So where does that leave us? It leaves us watching the train wreck because it's a perfect case study. And if you're wondering why the Steam tab keeps pushing it, that's simple. Visibility is cheaper than honesty. A flashy trailer buys curiosity once. A satisfying match buys loyalty. Highguard spent everything on curiosity and forgot loyalty exists. It's a lesson in what happens when marketing outpaces reality, when pedigree becomes a crutch, when tactical becomes an excuse, when cosmetics replace progression, when critics turn into PR, when studio culture punishes honesty, when industry politics demand a live service even if the game doesn't deserve one. If you're still playing Highguard and you're having fun genuinely, I'm not here to take that away from you. Enjoy what you enjoy. But don't let anyone guilt you into defending it. Don't let anyone tell you that disliking it makes you a villain. You're allowed to expect more. You're allowed to demand better. You're allowed to say, this isn't it, and spend your attention elsewhere. And to the developers, if any of you are watching, because I know you lurk, stop listening to the people who clap for everything. Listen to the silence. That silence is your real feedback. Anyway, that's my rant. Drop your experiences in the comments. Did you bounce off it? Did you try to love it? Did you refund? Did you get stuck in a lobby with 3 real humans and a swarm of bots pretending to emote? Hit the buttons if you want. Share it with a friend who still believes every veterans of headline. And I'll catch you in another one.